I deal better with wind, not plasticine.
Well, I'll pick it up, but I won't put it on. I will stow it, ready to give to Filialis to put in the bag.
Okay. All right. The weight of this thing, Squadge, is disproportionately heavy. Like, you feel like you are picking up a sack of grain.
If we hurry, we might be able to make our other appointment.
Yeah, there's a point. Yeah, you do still have that. Yeah.
I mean, if you guys are still up for it, we can always just call it a night. Honestly, I wouldn't blame you.
Because if you remember, you are meant to be meeting the other boatman at 10 p.m. If you dash, you might be able to get back to your current taxi, water taxi,
I'm
and
still
get
in
back.
epic big bird form.
Yeah, you are too. Of course you are. You're in your giant owl form, so you can like help get the move, pretty quickly. You could, yeah, definitely. So you could. I'm just trying to think. You could carry Filialis quite easily that distance, no problem at all.
Who's carrying me?
Me.
The giant
What
owl.
it means,
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
it's gonna make us walk.
Well, prior to the to Efreeniis' disappearance, I asked if we can get safe passage.
All right, yeah, because as I said, I'll give you an action. And as the form starts descending into the water, you hear in your minds, where do you wish to go? What image is in your mind? You can't really form a question. It's more about what are you trying to depict in your mind? Like you're in your vision of what you're intending to do, what you should be doing. What is it?
Yeah, I picture us all getting into the boat, into the water taxi.
Okay, and what I'll get you to do is make an intelligence roll for me, and from that I'll determine which face or image of the water taxi driver you had in mind. Okay. So what forms in your mind is the taxi driver you booked at 10 o'clock? Right? Near the, if you remember, it was going to be near the, whose name now has gone completely out of my head. Where are we? Near Dosco's. Dosco Make Pieces Foodery is where you plan to meet with him. Yep. So, a German, that was the name of the water taxi driver. At that moment, you see Efreeniis' hands as these appendages as they disappear in the water, and you see these iris-like eyes that just look like, it's almost like a sculptor has put this form onto the head of this thing. And as it's descending down, you see the fingers spread into like a bulb, and a core of energy sits in the middle, which seems to concentrate between the eyes of this creature. And then suddenly, all of you that are terrestrial suddenly are sitting on this boat, and you see a German, the boat starts rocking like each side to side in the boat, and in Windra, your owl form, you're sort of hovering, the animal's reaction just to get up, and you're sort of hovering over the top of this boat. You can see that the boat was, the water taxi was making its way back towards the island where Dosco Make Pieces Foodery was. So, and he looks at you. You go, what? I can see it almost falls out of the boat, and sort of only years of practice stop him from falling out, as you have just reappeared. In your case, Squadge, you're expecting, because you where you appear is like on one side, one of the bulwarks of this punt, and the weight of this mirror is thinking that it would cause the ship to, the punt to tilt in the water, but it doesn't. It's like the weight you're feeling in your hand is not transferring through to the environment around you. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take you back to the dogfish, which at the moment, where has the dogfish gone? Which is unusual. Oh, there it is. There we go. All right. So I'm just going to remove that. Okay. And your party just let me get that out the way, is hovering in the water, in the marsh water, just there. And the German looks up and he goes, I had no idea you were wizards.
No, we're not wizards. We are just gifted. Or receiving gifts.
All right.
That's not the question,
And you see that he looks at you and says, what? Maybe you best get off my boat. I don't want any trouble with the proprietor here. I'll take you over there. You can see he's mixed with fear, and he doesn't know whether the best decision with that fear is to carry on or to get you off his boat. His decision
if you
isn't
take
made.
us there,
Go ahead. Sorry, Cal.
if you take us there, we're getting off the boat anyway, so.
Okay. And he looks at you and he goes, and you see like the thought process of a relatively simple fellow. He goes, yeah, I guess so. He goes, I'll get it turned around. And he grabs his pole out from the side again, which he almost lost, and he starts pushing the prow, walking around this sort of walkway on the edge of these punts, which is probably about half a foot wide. And he deftly walks around through years of practice to the front and poles the front of it around. And comes back to the back, and when you're pointing in the right direction, starts poling his way off. So basically, what he's going to be doing is taking you through sort of this just direction, straight through, under this walkway and around. He's looking at dumping you there, which is the quickest path. Now, the thing about that path is that what you've noted is most of the punts that seem to be have dropped people off that you saw doing that while you were eating and things like that seem to be taking more of a route through here up to this point, to this estuary. It seemed to be the popular way to go.
Is there more water now?
Yeah, the tides come up. Yeah, it's definitely deeper. You notice when he's pushing the pole down, the pole would probably be about maybe 16 to 18 foot long. And you notice now when he gets to the top and he pulls and he walks forward a little bit on the edge to get to the point, there's only probably about 5 feet of the pole left in his hands before he starts pulling it back up again as it starts moving forward. When you look at him, he's, you know, in the modern world, he would be frighteningly strong because of the nature of the work that he does. But he seems to be focusing on just taking you in a path that is the quickest thing, directly towards these dead stones that you've been told about.
Yeah, I think he just wants rid of us.
Yeah, exactly. You gain no sense as to him having any other motive than fulfilling this commission and dropping you off.
We paid half up front, didn't we?
Yeah.
What do we owe on top of that?
Do you know, I can't even remember what
Reminder.
you paid now. But I definitely think it wasn't a huge amount. I think it was only like a piece of silver each way. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So he brings you through. So you come through to this point here. And at that stage, he mutters to you, you have to try and get as low as you can in the punt. And you know, it's that classic sort of Venetian thing where you almost, you know, lie down almost in the punt to go under the hanging walkway, and he steps onto it and walks across, dragging the pole across, and jumps back into the back of the punt, dragging the pole with the momentum to get you on it and away. At this stage, you can see that the Grand Tavern over here is completely alive, lit beyond expectation. It's almost like a candle, got a huge candle glowing. The other thing that you notice also, the residence is brightly lit, and you can see that even from this distance you can make out that there are servants who are going around and refilling really large lanterns, like fixed storm lanterns that are sitting there with oil, and they're burning brightly. So each one of them that's sort of in these sort of like fixed, probably concreted stands would generate the light of 20 normal lanterns. You know, they're that bright. It's almost like you're not quite sure. It's almost like there's either a collective fear of the dark in this place, or there's a you know, like an alternate view that the ability to light this place up, sitting underneath this huge black wharf, when being lost to the sun generally, is almost like a sign of wealth and success. So the punt moves its way across. You can see that as you start approaching this point, the pole is going in less, and you can see he drops the pole to the left-hand side of the punt into like brackets that hold it near the wall, and from the other side he pulls out a shorter one, about 12 foot, and he starts using that one because it's easier to use as you start to get closer. And he says, he seems to have calmed down a bit by the time you're getting into these shallows. And he says he said this evening, for some reason, some of the other water taximen have been saying that some of the beachcombers in the ruins, there's been a lot of talk of seeing the bent cur today. You might be wizards, but you best take care. Not many come back that run into the bent cur.
Try our best.
And as you get closer, you can see that there's another, not so much a punt, it's quite shallow keeled, but it looks to be sort of like a rowboat. And you can see there's about 4 men that have that look of those sort of beachcombing scavenger sort of crews that seem to spend their time looking for any elements of relics over there. And as they're getting back on, you see one of them holds his hand up. You know, there's no threat, nothing like that, and goes, too many shadows tonight, my good fellows. Is this the first time you've come over and tried this?
Aye, first time.
All the signs are good for you to find something of great worth. But on the same time those signs are there, the risk is greater.
I mean, after the day we've had so far, probably couldn't get much worse. I'll knock on some wood, though.
And he goes, oh, good luck to you. You can see that they admire your mettle as they're loading themselves back into the boat. And German sort of looks like, did you have any luck today then, boys? And they said, nah, not too much. Few bits and pieces, but nothing of great worth. Nothing a few ales won't fix this evening, eh, lads? And you see that, they got, all in agreement. As they start, 2 of them grab the oars and they start pulling away. All right. So you have arrived at the Dead Stones.
Because my owl form only lasts an hour, am I coming to the end of that, or are we still...
No, you still got, in that circumstance, I'd still say you've probably got half an hour left.
It means I got the eyes of an owl right now, so if we're looking for
Yeah.
something...
Yeah, absolutely. So as you're looking around, what I'm going to say to you also is, since your contact with the creature known as Efreeniis, you currently will have a free inspiration. So you can use that at any time until you finish a long rest. It's like you're energized from that contact.
Is that all of us?
Yep, all of you. Yep. So the reason I raise that now, Annie, obviously if you want to make a perception roll for the owl, so you've got the stats for the giant owl.
Wait, which one was it again? Sorry, the cat walked in. I got distracted.
The stats for the giant owl for a perception roll.
Ah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the advantage that you've been offered by Efreeniis can be applied to the form of the owl if you're wanting to make a perception roll from the point of view of the nature of the owl's sonic-based vision. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright, so its wisdom is 13 plus 1, and then
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so 13, but yeah, so you've got that. That's brilliant. So 18. The thing that you see is as the owl is hovering above, as the rest of your companions are getting their boots wet, wading out of this punt, is that in this direction here, in this area here, the ping of the owl's cry hits something that the owl's senses don't recognize. And it lies in that direction. But you would say that from the point of view of that, it is currently what? You would say at least 300, 400 feet away from you. And seems to be moving away from you. But it has a significant physical form. And it's not a form the owl's brain recognizes. Okay. So look, I'm going to go and grab another drink. Have a think about what your next move or steps are, and maybe having a think about, when you get back, a brief chat about what your objectives are. Because you might want to, probably a bit of a reset on where your objectives were on coming to the Dead Stones. Right? Okay.
Yeah, no worries, Matt. I mean, I think our objective coming here was we were looking for our 2 dogs. Is that right?
That's right. So you're looking for those symbols or that whole concept. And if you remember, you earlier you saw a beachcomber that was there, and you saw that they had 2 dogs.
Yeah.
If you remember that. Yeah.
I've heard about bent curs.
And bent curs, and that's how you heard about bent curs. Yeah.
Were they the last of the people in this area that we can see, or the last lights leaving, Matt?
By all means, make a perception roll. I think what I'm going to say is that thing that was detected by the giant owl was the focus, because the issue with a shape change like that, from my determination of how that would work, I think in magic would be like there'd be ongoing opposing forces rather than symmetry in the senses. Do you know what I mean? So like you would have the perception of the animal, and you would have the objectives of the creature that wasn't an animal, and how you would get that. So I think in the case of the owl has picked up this thing which is very easily unidentifiable and therefore a threat. So I think it would have harnessed Windra's attention in the owl form for quite a while. You know how like a bird will just stay watching something? Like it perceives that way. So in the case of Squodge, so Squodge, in your case, you're looking around. Obviously, in your case, the light is minimal. So you're struggling to actually do that, but still with a 15, even though that would be at disadvantage. You're looking around and you can see no other movement in the area. When you look back, it's hard because you can, in the back of your mind, you can't use hearing because the noise from the Grand Tavern echoes under the roof of the Black Wharf. It carries across the water. And the lapping of the tide, it's not quite completely high tide yet.
No, understand, Matt. Understand the situation we're in.
Yeah.
You can squawk and squeal
Yep.
to some effect
Yeah, that's
to try
right.
and indicate that, but I can understand you. Doesn't mean you can understand me.
Yeah, exactly. So it's difficult, but I find 5e's rules quite dissatisfactory when it comes to how that sharing an animal form would actually work. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, Annie, if you or particularly as well for Tommy have any thoughts about how you think that would affect your characters, like by all means, let me know. Like when you're doing those kind of things. Now, just quickly go back to the Old Faithful, which I forgot about, is your actual levels of inspiration that you're carrying at the moment, notwithstanding the one that you have from the contact with Efreeniis.
I had that thing where I couldn't remember if I had one or two at the beginning of last session, and then
Yep.
you gave me one.
Yeah.
So now I don't know if I have 2 or 3, but let's just say 2 because I don't want to be too
Sure.
inspired.
All
Yeah.
right. No worries. And how about you, the other guys? How you going?
I've got one full one and one of the temporary one.
Yep. So I'm going to count the temporary one on your list. I'm just going to mark that one up so we can use it. And for Squatch?
Just the one, Matt.
Just the one. And that includes, is that the Efreeniis one?
I've got one temporary and one permanent.
Yeah. Okay. And I'll wait for Damien to get back because he's using the bathroom. Look, in this case, I know we weren't sure about it, but I think you can have the extra one. But did you use that in that roll? No, you didn't roll at advantage, did you? You just rolled straight out.
Me?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I just rolled straight out.
Yeah, so you've still got your temporary as well. All right?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, cool. So we'll wait for Damien to get back. Are you there yet, Damien?
I think he said he was popping to the bathroom. So.
No worries. Okay. So, yeah, definitely, Squad, you can see nobody else around, and your perception is, your hearing particularly is being marred by the noise. That was pretty good perception for the night, and you're pretty close to the stones. Another thing that I'll say to you is that, Squadge, when you're looking around while everybody else is wringing out their boots and their socks, from the salt water as you're sort of getting ready to move in, when you look at one of these stones here, you see what looks to be the elements: earth, air, fire, water. Like symbols you do recognize. They come in very different forms all over the place. But you see in the center of that, there are lines joining it. And in the center of that, you actually see what looks to be like an elongated form. Sitting
Not
within
dissimilar to the Efreeniis we've just seen?
Yeah, but like abstractly. But also it could be a dogfish symbol. When you're looking at the symbols that you've seen of the dogfish on those doors when you came in, and the dogfish you're seeing being served at Dosco's, this symbol could be the same thing. You could be looking at either of those, but it strikes you as interesting because you haven't seen a symbol like this since the last time you were in Hadring's Anvil. Right, the easternmost Azurian city, because it's the old world, the old magic that Balath is a country that has basically tried to draw out and destroy as heresy.
I've still got my lantern lit, Matt.
Yeah.
So I will I'll make sure it's a hooded lantern, so I'll make sure the lantern hood is lifted.
Yep.
But not, say, to about 50%.
Yeah.
And I'm going to just brush over the symbol and just sort of point it out to people. Or more to the point, rather than point it out, make people look at me looking at it for a long time.
Yeah, okay. So you do clean the symbol up, and you notice that when you're wiping it down, you can see that this is there and so prominent that these beachcombers haven't given it a second thought for maybe decades, right? When you clean it back, you see underneath the symbol is an abstract shaped form. It's exactly the same shape as the mirror you took from Kadrak.
Is this a recess, or is it proud, or is it stained within the stone, or is it carved in, or?
It is a rebate, but it's a rebate that has worn down, like, terribly in the elements. In fact, what I would suggest is, you suggested that you drew your attention to what you were doing for your companions. If one of you has a strong history roll or something like that, a skill you feel you can apply with the help action, because Squadge is cleaning this now furiously. This has really gained his attention. One of the others, depending on the nature of your history skill, can provide a role which Squadge is giving you the help action to give you advantage. It's up to you to work out who you think is the most appropriate person to have made notice that thing at that moment.
It's a shame I'm a bird.
Yeah.
I'm good at history, but not when I'm a bird.
What I will do in the interim, can Windra make another perception roll for the owl while this is going on? Yep, go ahead. Sorry, Tom.
I was saying I'm not that good at history.
Yeah.
I'm average. So
what's
not as-
average, mate?
I got a +0.
A 0.
Everything.
That's like the best we've got at the moment.
Yeah, oh, really? Okay.
Well, I've got one.
I can do it, but I can if I can guidance myself, it might help.
Okay. Go ahead.
But I feel like if Damien was to tackle this, it'd probably be more from like a religious history kind of angle.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's a straight history roll. It's just a circumstance.
Yeah, alright.
Oh dear. Right.
Yeah.
The opportunity is lost. But you see that you're aware the shape is similar. But now to you, Caleb, looking at it, because it was the moment you're so distracted, you're watching the bird, watching the thing that seems to be so focused on. There's so many things going on, the noise from the tavern. But you do twig the shape is reminiscent of the mirror.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, as part of being a little bit distracted,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to use Eyes of the Grave.
Okay.
Just see if I can pick up anything spooky.
All right. You are doing that. I'm going to go back to Windra's perception roll. Windra, the owl that you are seeing through is looking, and you see it sees something it has no difficulty seeing. And you see as there are a pair of dogs appear on the rise, that form disappeared behind. The dogs are large, and within the perception of the owl They are strangely cold.
Can I try to screech to get people's attentions to look at the dogs?
Oh, no, I think that's reasonable. That would be a free action. That's your own mind moving through that. And you... So the owl, for the rest of you, makes this sort of strange, sort of ghostly screech, this low-grade screech that echoes to create the bounce of the images around it. And the rest of you look up and you can see that the giant owl is sort of sitting on one of the rocks and watching, and the head, they're doing that bird thing where it's moving around and trying to improve its perception of what's going on. And the direction is fixed, still in the same position. The difficulty for the rest of you is it's the same position the owl has been watching the whole time you've been there. And what I'm going to say is each one of you, I want you to make an insight roll with the DC of 13 if you're picking up on the point of difference for the owl. No, not for Damien. Damien's not having his best day from a perception point of view.
Perception or insight?
Sorry, insight. Just general perception from the concepts of personal perception. Yep, go ahead. Okay, Filialis and Squadge, you watch and you look up. Now, what I would say for Squadge's vision, even with the lantern, you are not picking up this form, but Filialis relates to you because you've got the enhancement of some dark vision, even though it's limited, and you can make out these vague dog forms that are coming, that are ahead of you. Damien, your eyes of the grave. The one thing that your eyes of the grave tell you as you're looking around is within these stones, there is no death. You're not even seeing the things you normally would, like if you look carefully, the dead mouse that's lying on the ground, or the remnants of a mouse, the crushed insect that was only stepped on by a beachcomber a couple of hours ago. You're not seeing any death within these stones. It's like it only admits life.
I will communicate with the party that the so-called dead stones contain no death.
Is this but a riddle?
I don't know. I'm just telling you what I'm picking up, and it's just surprisingly, alive is what I'll say.
What I will tell you though is now the mirror hasn't been put in the bag yet, has it?
Not yet.
No. The only death your eyes of the grave can see is the mirror.
I think we should put the mirror in the bag. I don't want to have to. I don't know what it is. I'm getting a bad read, and after the day we've had, I want one less thing to worry about right now.
Kind of creepy you going, put the mirror in the bag. Put the mirror in the bag or else it becomes dead again.
So, what are you doing?
Well, I pick up on my party's trepidation, and in particular one member's riddle, and I think he's just acting weird, and I pass the amulet to
To the child.
Filialis.
All right. So you open your bag of holding.
I'll just hold the bag open so that
You can drop in.
squad. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't. I don't want to touch it.
Okay. Filialis, do you wear your talk?
Yeah, say I do.
Okay. As Squadge, you drop the mirror into the bag of holding. Can you make a perception roll for me, please? Okay. As the mirror drops out of your hand, it twists slightly, as these things do. It's like, even though it feels incredibly heavy, like it's actually a strain to lift it up, to drop it into the bag. But its own effect on the environment about it is like what you would expect it to be. It appears to be a thin piece of what looks to be crystal or glass that's been polished with a backing on it that seems to be like a dull bronze or something. And a breeze catches it and it tilts around, and you see as it tilts around, you catch out of the corner of your eye the reflection of Filialis as it starts to drop in the bag, because Filialis is so short. But the breeze tilts it back that little bit, and you watch as you see, as it falls in, the image of this sort of bestial formed, scarred, blood-drenched mouth thing, head sitting on a neck, a hugely muscular neck on this sort of brass talk. As the mirror dips out of your light and you look back at your companions' features you are used to, and you see the same talk the creature was wearing as the mirror drops into the bag.
I but see in this mirror your reflection, Filialis, but it is not you. It is maybe a older, meaner, gnarled version of yourself, reflecting.
Okay. So, Filialis, give me an insight roll. With these last vestiges of the links that you're having with each other, which are in decline, but they're like, it's like, you know that feeling when you're losing pins and needles when sensation is coming back?
Yeah.
It's sort of like in reverse, and that the link between your companions is moving away, and almost with like an addictive reaction for all of you. It's disturbing that the link is moving. But in that, you almost have a clear image of what Squadge explains to you. And he describes the picture of a Vorjik from the caves in back home to you to a T. As the mirror disappears into this interdimensional vortex within this bag of holding, this demi-plane, for the first time ever since this bag was given to you, as the tire, you felt something hit the bottom. Like, poof. The first time you've recognized any passing sense of weight in this bag as you tie it shut. All right. Another perception roll for our owl, please.
My internet's getting slow. Oh no, there it goes.
Excellent. Okay, so also what I'd like you to do is, I've had to think about this mechanic, Annie, and what we'll do every time you're in this form, I want you to actually make a let's say a D20 nature roll for me. So a standard nature roll. With your
Right, so not off
with your
with my own
with,
sheet.
with Windra's stats, yeah. Okay. Can you make note of that 18, please?
Yep.
Now, what I'm going to say is every time you're in this form, you'll make a nature roll with the view of building your ability to integrate your own capabilities with this bird when you're in its form. All right? So make a note of that. And what I'm going to say is that when you hit 100, you'll be able to utilize the bulk of your own capacities while in this form. All right? It's just taking a little while. Now you've picked it, as to how you're going to build it. All right, so that form comes through. But with your observation, you watch, the owl's attention goes back to those dogs on the hill, these cold dogs. And you watch as they look at you. And they look at you from the point of view of a wolf that's sizing prey. But something calls them over the noise. You can't hear it properly, but to the owl's attention, it's probably what a human would perceive as a whistle, but is lost to your companions in the noise of the tavern. And you see the two dogs jerk around in abjectly well-trained discipline. Yep.
And I try to replicate it.
Yeah, okay, from the point of view of mimicry. So what I'm going to say is, all right, this would be a performance, technically. But the issue would be, in the case of if you were using Windra's stats, it would be at, because you haven't completely transferred your ability, it would be at disadvantage. You could neutralize that with an inspiration or a temporary inspiration. And I'll say if you do that, the DC, I'm going to make the DC 13. So your options are make a roll at disadvantage and go for a 13, or make a roll without disadvantage and try and get a 13.
I'm going to roll using the temporary inspiration.
Yep, okay.
Off of the owl stats, which is for a charisma, which is performance, it would be 10 plus 0.
Okay, go ahead. No. So the owl makes this blood-curdling screech, which you can see it's trying to interpret a human's direction through its own vocal structure, and because you haven't quite got there yet, it misinterprets that and it goes off in a baleful screech. What it does do is give you the opportunity to notice that the two creatures, the two dogs, are wearing collars. You catch them glinting in the light and they turn back. I think it's fair to say that while Windra cannot communicate it at the moment, she would assume that these dogs are probably about 4.5 foot at their front shoulder and about 7 foot long. They are big. But they dutifully respond to that call you tried to mimic and disappear over the crest.
I'm trying to roll a fumble, but my fumbler button is broken.
That's okay. I don't think we don't.
Yeah, it's definitely broken.
That's fine. That could be the macros. If anybody else has the same problem, I'll work that out. Let me just test the macro. Yeah. Yeah, it's not working for me either. So I'd have to do a restart for it if it becomes critical. So
what a shame.
Yeah, what a shame. I'll restart all the macros soon. So you're there. You've seen Squad. You've seen this shape. You've seen this unnatural weight into the demi-plane of the bag of holding. You've seen the two dogs, and the form that the owl is aware of a large humanoid form moving away. But you have this space which Damien has determined appears to be free of death. Even to the point where you could speculate that this is almost like a circle of immortality. Would you age here? Would you die here?
So where are we in like are we like inside like the ring or are we out? Are we outside the ring?
No. You're still basically where you were before. So what I'm going to do, I'll just, I will mark up. So basically where you saw the dogs disappear over the rise is here. Why isn't this not drawing for me? Yes. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, basically the dogs were there. The stone is the one immediately in front of you. So that's there. And that's where Squadge has found that indentation that actually matches the device that you have seen.
Alright.
And what the time of day, Matt, would be about 11 at night?
Yeah,
maybe?
probably now. Yeah, maybe a bit later because you spent quite a bit of time at this stone. I'll say that the owl is really probably only going to be here for about another 5 or so minutes before it dissipates.
Probably get down to the ground then.
Yeah. Okay. So you're prepping for that? Your conscious mind is preparing. Yep. Okay.
I think maybe it might be good to investigate the dead stones a little bit, see if there's a
Yeah.
work out what's going on there.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. So you want to move into the dead stones or you want to move around the outside?
Or I think I want to move to the perimeter of it and like maybe like stick an arm in or something like that.
Okay. So you move around. Where are you moving to? Like, how far around you think you will move? So if you use a measuring tool, you can sort of use the distance to see how far around you can go.
So I'd be sort of thinking of going to like here-ish.
Yep. So you're going to go in that far and then to that inner
And then
circle.
like
Yep.
just on the outside of that inner circle.
Yep.
Maybe like
And reach
like
in.
with like my finger out, I'll just sort of see
Sure.
if anything happens.
Okay. So you get to that point and you see where two stones are reasonably close together. It seems like the right place to reach in. Are you reaching in there?
With my non-dominant hand, yes.
Wise. So you reach in and you see that Damien, you're watching your companion and you're watching as Filialis reaches in with her non-dominant hand, be it the right or the left. you see the hand appear inside, but you see it through your eyes of the grave. The arm you see within is dead. As it gets retracted.
Oh yeah, I
And
think you need to take your hand out.
Filialis, to you, you are just seeing your hand disappear into there.
Alright, I'll pull it back out.
Okay.
Or attempt to.
Yep. All right. So your arm pulls out without a problem.
No, I do a formal assessment.
Okay. Well, on his arm, or her arm, sorry.
Yeah, I want to see if there's any signs of necrosis or something. I'm just
Yeah. Yeah.
really concerned.
So you watch as the arm comes out and you see there's like a transition of death into life. You can make an Arcana roll for me at disadvantage.
Oh, okay, so be shit either way. Yeah.
Okay. In your mind, the voice of Father almost like goes, like almost laughs and like suppresses that laugh in your mind. But not one of ridicule. Your confidence, not one of ridicule directed towards you. It's more of irony. The owl, because it's right in front of you, just before your form starts to change back, Windra, you see Carrion live and become Carrion again. And then your eyes revert back to the eyes of Windra and you see Filialis standing in front of you. Okay. Filialis? Indeed.
So confused.
Did Damien share what he saw?
I would assume.
Yep. So you're happy that you're just relaying that back? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, as I'm like a quick check for Filialis's hand.
Yeah. So you walk over and have a look. Yeah.
Yeah. Like
It,
it doesn't make sense how if it suddenly becomes dead and then back alive that nothing happens. It's just I don't understand it, so I'm just trying to see if any physical change happened.
now you
Do I
you
feel
you
it?
did recall what I said. The live becomes dead. And the dead becomes live again. What the owl saw was carrion become life and carrion come out again. In your ears, Damien, with your eyes of the grave, it's almost like you can hear flies around the body of the dead.
So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take the same hand,
Yep.
I'm going to put it in, and I'm going to like make a click
Yep.
to see if I can hear the click from outside of the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So you put your hand in. Again, Damien, you watch as the hand goes in, you watch it necrose and go through to a certain point, and you see the fingers perform that living action of clicking the fingers. And Filialis, you can hear the noise. You are looking at your own hand, clicking your fingers, and then you're retracting your arm.
Okay. So.
Now, what I'll do... Yep, sorry, go ahead, Ben.
I was going to say, perhaps we should look through the eyes of the mirror and see what it reflects from the inside of this.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. So I'll pull out the mirror.
Okay. So you reach in there. As you grab hold of it, Filialis, you pull it out. You don't look at it. It comes up with its back to you, but you notice as soon as it leaves that demi-plane, you feel that weight of the thing that was described to you by Squadge. It feels like you're carrying it. Suddenly it becomes 20 kilos in weight as soon as it comes out of that demi-plane. And you notice that as it comes out of the demi-plane, you swear you saw like a discharge of energy, sparks, as it's moved from one dimension to another. You grab it and you're looking at it. And as you look at it in your face, you can see at the moment, all you're seeing is that imperfect reflection. It's not a perfect mirror. It's more like a polished crystal. But you can make out it is your reflection quite clearly.
Okay. So then I'll make sure it's my non-dominant hand again.
Yep.
And then I will plunge the mirror into the...
Yep. So you're reaching in with the mirror in that hand?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So you push it forward. I think for this situation, all of you are in a position to use perception. Obviously, in Damien's case, Eyes of the Grave is still active. So all of you make a perception roll. Okay.
I am unwise.
You are unwise, and it's because you're still shaking the owl's mentality out of your head. However, what I am going to say, I
Can't get over the.
That is that.
I saw so many rats. They
No,
look so good.
absolutely. But what I will say, I want you to make another perception roll at advantage because you're in that transition between two different views, not of the mirror and the situation, but your environment. Okay, all right. So, sorry, I'm just quickly responding to this. Okay. So all right. So, what I'm going to say is, Damien, your Eyes of the Grave activate. Filialis, you're looking at this closely, but I think your perception is altered a bit by fear of what you're going to see. Do you know what I mean? When that mirror goes in there. In the case of Squadge, you're starting to get a bit freaked out. The conspiracy theory thing is really starting to build up. There's too many things going on here that could potentially be causing you some form of distress. So, The difficulty is who is seeing what's in the mirror and how well they're seeing it and from what perspective. Damien, when you are looking at the mirror, you see in the mirror a perfectly clear reflection of Filialis as you see Filialis. The dead arm is holding the mirror that looks unchanged. The reflection of Filialis looks like Filialis. But you can't help thinking you're looking at Filialis from the past, not the now. In the case of Filialis, you're looking at it. And I want you to think about any advantages that you could take, inspirations, any other ability you have. This almost...
I'll use the inspiration for this, I reckon.
Okay, so because you are fighting the urge to let this mirror go from what you're seeing in it.
Alright.
So what happens is, Filialis, as you're looking at it, you see yourself as this dead, undead Vorjik of abject cruelty. Like, you can see through the gums, like dead holes through the gums, to to these yellow ancient teeth. You can see these incredibly powerful muscles being held together by necrotic energies. You're looking at a tool of destruction that is not controlled by the creature standing before you. And you see very clearly the torque on the neck of this creature is what is controlling what's going on. But you see the power this thing gives. The power is so attractive. There is no Filialis in the reflection, but there is Filialis in the reflection. You are looking at yourself, but you don't know from when. It makes no sense. And at that point, the Filialis on the other side of the stones, holding the mirror, is doing everything in its neurological ability to get rid of this thing that is showing this to you. So what I want you to do is think about how you're going to address the fact that you are fighting this urge to let this mirror go within this boundary, which Filialis, should not happen. This thing should not be here. So I'm going to give you a sec to think about what you think is the best way to address this reaction.
Alright. I think what I'm going to do is use my last key point to activate this.
Yep.
So that it's not just my physical holding it, it's also my astral arms.
Superb, Tom. So you're drawing on that energy to actually reach in and reinforce your own arm.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. So you do that, and that goes through and it grabs hold of it, and that is a great move. So I want you to add advantage, like the equivalent of burning an inspiration, which I'm adding for what you've done. I want you to make an athletics or an acrobatics roll. Now, the reason I want you to think about which one you're going to take is athletics is you're holding onto this thing and you're using the arms of your astral self to pull your arm out, holding this thing. Or acrobatics to try and throw it or somehow get it out of the boundary. There are different risks, which I'm not going to tell you now, but you have to make a decision. You can talk to the other members of the party of which is the best approach to take. What I will say to you is you believe if you succeed, the athletics roll has a greater chance of succeeding, but it has a greater chance of long-term harm. There's a chance that something life-changing will happen in this action for Filialis.
Well,
So your options are success, greater risk, lower chance of success, lower risk.
I feel like if you throw it, you might just end up dropping it not very far from you.
yes. And because I think because a part of the astral self thing is that I can use my wisdom modifier in place of my strength modifier for strength-based
Yep.
checks.
Yep.
And the athletics would be a strength check. And if I, because currently I've got a -1 to my strength, but I've got proficiency in athletics.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I use my wisdom modifier instead of my strength modifier, I'll have a +4
Mm-hmm.
to athletics.
Okay.
And so it's numerically my highest bonus.
Yep.
So I think that's probably what I'm going to go for.
Brilliant. Okay. So go right ahead. You take the
Could
path
I-
that you feel is appropriate. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Caleb.
I'd be able to, like, reactionarily, I don't know if that's a word.
Mm-hmm.
Like cast guard.
Guidance. All right. Now, what I'm going to say is what I want you to do first is make a dexterity saving throw for me and get over 13. If you can get over 13, you're close enough to get to Filialis to touch her, to give guidance.
I'll say, I need to roll exactly 13.
Yeah.
Shit.
You try, Caleb, in this moment. For Damien, and you just don't reach Filialis when Filialis isn't aware you're trying to do it as Filialis starts to take her action.
I tried.
Yeah. Okay, so
Right, all you.
the action you're planning for Filialis, go right ahead.
Yeah, I'm just
Wait,
going to roll
sorry.
my.
Sorry, Caleb.
I'm just going.
Is there another preliminary thing you want to do here?
Can I give Alice my inspiration?
Yes, you can. You can pass on inspiration. Yep, absolutely.
I'll do that.
Unless it's, as you know, there are specific rules about deflecting a critical with inspiration. But in this case, you can just hand over inspiration to a colleague. Yeah. So you have inspiration.
Don't I already have advantage on?
Yeah,
this
technically, yeah. Sorry, you do. So that's fine. Great, Carl. Thank you. But yeah, go ahead.
Just for the sake of the numbers being correct, I'm just going to roll the. I'm just going to click my survival one just because I have the right number.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Whoa! Just got it. So basically, you pull back, and you feel this energy, and Damien, you watch as Filialis's arm, while holding the mirror, instead of the living arm, you watch the necrotic arm emerges from the boundary. The inverse of what's been happening. reinforced by the astral arm, which is trying to drag it out. As it comes back, Filialis, make a Constitution saving throw for me. The DC is 15. Oh, for a moment, Damien, you watch as Filialis's living arm atomizes and an astral arm starts to take its place. But then as it gets to the wrist, as the wrist emerges, the dimensional change is averted and you watch the arm reincorporate into this dimension. And the mirror comes out. And as you look at the mirror, Filialis, you look into its face and you see the image that Squadge saw of Kadrak lying dead on the floor with the glowing runes. And you watch as his face spasms somewhat. Make an insight roll advantage for me. Whatever Kadrak is not dead. But whatever Kadrak is in this mirror. But as you
Let's not do that one again.
So as you pull this out, you... Oh, for that moment you cross the boundary into death, you could feel it. And you don't know, because, Damien, you're still seeing the absence of death within this circle. But when that mirror was introduced, the only thing within this was death. In your mind, you now don't know, is the interior of this circle merely a hugely complex illusion, masking death? Or is it, how you originally perceived it, as being a bastion of life that can be polluted by something? You don't know. Okay. So, you pull that out. Now, Squadge, I want you to make an investigation roll for me. Okay. You noticed, you didn't get a proper image, but you noticed and got distracted a little bit by the fact that when Filialis's arm was inside the circle and going through that trauma, the space, the rebate of the mirror's shape, for a minute you saw something else in that rebate. It was almost like a script became apparent for a while, and then as soon as Filialis pulled the mirror out, it disappeared.
A script around the mirror, or a script?
Within the rebated shape of the mirror. So now you're absolutely certain, because Filialis is standing there holding the mirror. You know full well that that rebate in the stone looks exactly the same as the shape of the mirror itself, which is sort of like a triangle, but an off triangle with a curved base. But the way it's hung on the necklace hangs it separately. It's almost like very deliberate. Like the point is to one angle, the actual curvature is to another. It's not an accident. No one was trying to hang a balanced triangle with a curved bottom. They were deliberately trying to off-center the point. But in that moment, you saw script appear.
Yeah, I relate that everyone with the I have seen writings appear.
Yeah.
Writings appear in this stone when this has happened.
All right. Windra, during the point when the mirror was in the boundary of the dead stones, you had a sense, like even so far away from home, you can perceive when a great strike hits the needle. And even at this range, a surge of incredible force on the storm plane was discharged at that moment. There was a chain reaction of power that has started from the emergence of Efreeniis, well, from the arrival of Kadrak at the Calling Well, to the appearance of Efreeniis, to your own investigations of the Dead Stone, and the introduction of that mirror. It seems to have settled now, and it's dissipating. But it was primordially enormous in power.
I think should probably state to everyone something is changing in the world.
Right. Okay. Well, you're there. These revelations once again become almost a parody with the background sounds of the Grand Tavern, of, you know, merrymaking music. And that disturbingly bright lights from the residents. Okay, what are you doing?
Putting the mirror back in the bag.
Should we offer it to the stones before? I'm happy to try.
I'll hold it out to him.
Well, I will say to you, Filialis, the mirror no longer weighs heavily in your hand. You hand it to Squodge, and Squodge, when it falls into your hand, it feels like you're hanging onto a 20-kilo bag of grain. What are you doing with it, Squodge?
I'm going to offer it to the rebate in the stone.
Okay. So when you go to push it into the so you're going to try and marry it to the rebate, like. Yep. You can't make complete contact with the base because of the necklace and the ring that's attached to it. So you make contact in 2 points, but you can never make contact in the third. You move it around, you try and do it that way. You can't make contact with the third point. No matter which angle you put it in. The rebate is worn enough that the rounded side will fit into any aspect. But you cannot make the third point get close enough to actually go into the rebate itself. You don't know whether or not that is fundamentally significant, but in your mind you think it is. If this is a mechanism, it's not. You cannot make the contact you need for it to work. Now, I'll give you an investigation roll, but at disadvantage. If you want to use an inspiration or a temp inspiration to overcome that, you can do so.
I'm just going to go with my... Yeah, look, I'll use the temporary.
All right. Okay. All right. So in that, what you do see... Oh, did you roll that twice?
No. So the first one was the...
previous.
previous investigation.
Okay. So 21, you notice that when you make contact with 2 points, behind it, it's difficult to see, but you can see that script partially appears that you saw completely appear before. It partially appears and then disappears. It's a script you don't understand, but it appears, you try it the different way, it appears on that side of the triangular form and then disappears as you lift it back out again. It's incomplete. It's a magical connection or a key of some form, but it's not linking because of this link that's put through it, and that the link and the frame around the mirror look as old as the mirror itself.
I take it it's not a clasp, it's a formed or forged link.
Yes, it is. And not only is it a forged link, but when you look at it closely as part of your investigation, you can see that it's actually a bored hole through the crystal mirror itself, not just the frame. Oh, all right, I'm going to give this to you. I'm going to give you another investigation roll, but at no advantage. All right, squad, you've dealt with enough traps, enough locks, enough chicanery to see that the hole in the mirror is not as old as the mirror itself. Somebody has bored a hole through this point in that mirror and reattached the link. And when you look at the frame, you've had a good chance to look at it. Originally, that round link was attached at the top of this. So when you think about it, it's a triangle that goes down with a rounded bottom, right? At one point, that ring was at the top, so it would not sit off center. It would always sit with the point at the top and the rounded base at the bottom. Something at some point, and it is, I don't think you know enough about it, about the age of that hole or when it was added, has been deliberately moved it so that ring has been put through it off center.
Which way does the symbol appear on the stone? Does it appear symmetric, like it would hang?
Yep, it would appear that originally when that rebate was created, it would be the arrow would point up, the rounded bottom would be at the bottom. It's worn so badly over the years, it's probably thousands of years, that you can fit it in, the whole form in, on every aspect, the 3 aspects, but you cannot make it fully contact at any point. You're confident that this has been modified so it cannot be put into this rebate successfully.
I share this with the party. But when I asked, do you think we should persist with this or bag it and come back another time?
I have a feeling if someone's gone out of their way to make it hard to put it back in, it's probably for a good reason. So, we'll put it on hold for now, I think, is the best course of action.
Okay.
Is Windra feeling good after the strike on the needle? Because she liked the strike on the needle before.
It would, for her, it would strike her as being empowering, like exhilarating. Her people would find that. Because the greater the power that strikes the needle goes to the common good of the Stormborn.
I think she'd probably advise quite the opposite of Damien then.
So you have two members of the party, two different perspectives, and someone who's put their arm into death and pulled it out again.
And what say you, Tyre, of the knot?
You have the opportunity here, Ty, to pull rank.
I don't think I'll pull rank, but I think I will say that caution might be best in this sort of situation.
Mm-hmm.
But
Perhaps great power can be achieved through this.
there's also a price for power.
Which you've seen,
Good
Philly
enough.
Alice has seen very closely. Close at hand, literally. Yeah. All right. Are you, the rest of you, accepting the discipline of the Tyre's decision at the moment? Yeah.
I like to think that while Windra has her connections, she still holds loyalty to Filialis.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. So I think in that case, Annie, take a point of inspiration to add to your title. You fought a big personal demon on that. But you respect your Tyre. So basically, okay, so you're going to, what are you doing? You've decided you're not going to proceed with this. You have this mirror which has been retrofitted to stop it being used here at the Deadstones, from what you can ascertain, or potentially any other aperture the mirror would be available for. You come away as you're packing your gear up thinking, what does this place hide? What does it mask? What does this mirror stop? Why did Gassanolt give it to Kadrak? Why did Kadrax get attacked by this thing that seemed to come from within him that then resulted in his form dissolving like it's made of wax? Why do things look dead that are alive? Why do things that are alive look dead, depending on the when and the why? Why is Damien seeing a lack of death within something, but death among the living in others? Have you ever seen Rowan Atkinson's Tom, Dick and Harry piece? Where he talks about three guys, that one's deaf, one's dumb, one's blind. And it's their eulogy. And the priest is talking about, Harry saw the combine harvester, but being deaf and mute, could not warn his companions about their impending doom. Dick, who could not see the harvester but heard the harvester, but was both mute and blind, could not see his friends to find out where they were, and nor could he speak to warn them about it. Dick, who was both blind, mute, and deaf, had no fucking idea what hit him. So this is kind of the eulogy. There's a preamble to it. But the bottom line is that's the situation you guys are in. You're in a bit of a Tom, Dick and Harry thing. What are you doing? You came here to the Deadstones to look for two dogs. And you found a circle of stones that seems to move between life and death. and an amulet that's been neutered.
Are there any like rats or anything like nearish by that be grabbed?
Oh, so you're looking for something live that you could get?
Yes.
All right, so I would say make a survival roll for me to see whether Filialis you can catch something alive. All right, for 12, I think after a little while, your companions are catching up. You actually catch like a field mouse up on the rocks, eating some samphire, and you manage to jump on it and grab it. So you have this mouse in your hand.
I say sorry and then I chuck it whole into the dead stones.
Yep. So you chuck the mouse between the gap. You watch as it passes through, and you see very quickly its form becomes necrosed. And then you watch as suddenly it becomes alive again. And you can see that glimmer of light, of clinging to life and the hope of existence, the breath of the air. And then it declines again. And it falls to the base, inert. But Damien, you are watching it still with eyes of the grave. And you can see that mouse very much thinks it's alive. Within that space. Your eyes of the grave are watching the mouse get up and move within the circle. But the eyes of Damien can see the carcass of that mouse lying inert on the floor. So make an insight roll for me.
I'm going to use an inspiration for this.
Okay, great.
But I'm using it in a way that I want to communicate with the being in which it gives me power.
Yep.
In a way to try and guide me
Yep.
into understanding this.
Yep. Ah, brilliant. So as you're doing this, you watch and you're talking to Father in your mind as you watch this. And you see the form. And Father says to you, Damien, this time was always going to come. You see life whereas there is death, because you are dead, as are your friends.
I'm going to subtly put my finger on my pulse just to see if he's being literal or not.
See what I see. And then your eyes, your optic nerves change. The eyes of the grave, the spell is gone. And you're looking through these eyes that seem to have like sand and stuff moving across them. But you look at your companions and they are different things. Make a perception roll for me.
Can I guide myself? Is that possible?
Yeah, sure. You look across to Filialis and you again see this savage creature of primal aggression and bloodlust and force. You look to Windra and you see this humanoid, birdish, owlish form that is shrouded in the power of lightning. Like you could just see this. And you look across to Squodge, and Squodge is the most disturbing of all. It's this creeping black form, radiating doubt and fear. When you look
Am
down,
I able to?
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. I just had to ask if I'm able to look down at myself.
Yeah, you look down at your own hands and you see the braces of a priest from the old times of the Kondian people, and you see cadaverous hands, and you look down, and in the marshy water of this bay, you are looking back at the image of what you would only describe as a lich, looking back at you. And you hear Father's voice in your mind go, "You may not realize it, but the bridge to life lies on the back of death. Continue to feel you are alive."
Should I fear death?
You're already dead. Fear loss of your form. The very things that will be your end, Damien, lie in the hands of your companions. Get your Stormborn friend to take you to the Needle. If you wish to live, your life can be born there. Make a insight roll for me, Damien.
Just straight up.
Yep.
All right.
You don't trust that last bit. There is something in
regards
that.
to-
There is something in that last direction that there was a hunger attached to it. There is something about this needle that the Stormborn have that has whetted Father's appetite in some way, shape or form. In that moment, you appreciate that the death of your companions, or their status as basically being dead, sits within Father's control. And at that moment, you realise that it was Father who killed Kadrak. That was the voice you heard. And as you step away from your companions, Damien, you start rubbing your arm from where Bedfree Medich's pen stabbed your arm on the ship of the Humjacker.
Is it painful? Or is it just
No,
subconscious?
just subconscious. You relate that back, but now in your mind all you can think about is this needle of the Stormborn.
I'll keep that to myself, but I'll try and, to the best of my abilities, explain what I saw and heard to the party.
But you're leaving out the needle bit.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So the rest of the party, the needle bit does not get raised. All right. All right. Look, I reckon we'll leave it there for our reintroduction back in. Sorry, it's a bit lore heavy for today, but we need to get through a few bits. Now, the reason for that is because Max and I had a bit of a... He was working with me on a bit of a plan for how we're going to introduce stuff, and then, of course, circumstances changed, and Max couldn't be here, so we've had to make a little bit of a quantum leap in relation to how that would be transferred on, and I have to thank Max for being good sport. Through the week, there will be... As I said, I'll send some information out to each of you about your perceptions, but also, as I said, I think all of you are starting to move down a path where you're sort of querying about the elements of your character development within this. And so now, as you stand here on the bank of the Deadstones, Damien has spoken to you about how Father perceives that you are dead already. Something has happened in the past.
I have a quick query, if you're able to answer it.
Yeah, sure.
Was it when they said that, when we were talking about the fact that we are dead, was it kind of implied that everything around us is dead and everyone's just living the illusion of life? Kind of? Or is it just us, is what they were kind of implying?
They
Is
never
that too much for me?
No. It was never limited in the responses beyond yourselves. So that no one ever said it's just you and everybody else is okay. But I will say this to you, that the Deadstones have pointed out to you that within them there is life, but when you've tried to enter it, you become death. Or at least Filialis does. Are the Deadstones a lens for what's really happening? Or aren't they? You don't know. You tell me. Send me feedback. Is the campaign too esoteric? You let me know. No? All right?
Not at all. I loved today's session.
Good.
I love all the lore you make. Yeah. So
Alright.
epic.
I personally, this is going to sound weird, but when we finish, I personally hate the fact that I have no idea what's going on. Also, I'm so excited to get more information so I can piece it together finally.
And poor old Filialis is sticking his arm through going, oh look, my arm's dying. Yeah? Yeah, go ahead, Carl.
I feel so much like Damien. It's just, what I feel is what Damien would be feeling is, what the fuck is going on? It's just, I don't understand I'm a doctor, man. What the fuck?
is going on.
You're telling me
Yeah.
everything's dead? What is going on?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Right.
So I like how I went from chicken person to owl person. So
Yeah.
sticking with the theme
Yeah,
here.
it's going through. And Annie, can I ask you to give some thought to, given the information you've received tonight, why is the owl not connecting with Windra straight away?
Mm.
Okay.
Okay. And we have, our shape-changing friend who is seeing a shape which is disturbing. And now we're learning that our conspiracy theorist friend is perceived by those around them as a frightening, black, homogeneous form of doubt and fear.
It's really cool, though.
Hey, does Damien know he had a dad?
Does Damien know he had a dad? I'll let Damien answer
I
that one.
can say it, because I feel like I would have shared this with. Is the party we've been together
Yeah.
for a fair amount of time. We have a gist of things.
And you have a
The
bond
party would know.
because you're a knot. Yeah.
Let me double check. My dad. My dad died in the war between Quandians and the Balathians.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a dad, but he died probably about probably close to 10 years ago, maybe. Does that sound about right? Okay.
Is it going to be like Damien, I am your father? No, your parents didn't really die.
I think Damien doesn't 100% believe this being is his father, but he's just calling him that because that's what he's just the voice. That's what it sounds like to him when they communicate.
Fatherly.
Yep.
Yeah.
So in his mind,
There's-
like when we were talking about the communication for Efreeniis, it's about images in your mind, not the voice particularly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Damien, because this is definitely a new kind of power to him. He doesn't fully trust this voice in his head 100%, but because he's taking the persona of his father, he's more inclined to listen to what it says.
Yeah.
So
And thus far, its advice has helped him move forward. Yeah.
Yep. But now he feels a little bit weird about it. We'll see how this goes.
What I will
It's being
do.
weird. You're freaking out my friends.
The one last dice roll I'll ask for before we finish is for Squadge. I want Squadge to make a history roll. If you want to use some form of inspiration, Ben, go right ahead.
I've used my bit of inspiration.
Right.
I can lend. I've got 3 now because you gave me
Now-
another one again.
You can lend temporary inspiration. Now keep in mind you lose this after a long rest. So
Yeah, I already
Philialis,
used my temporary.
yeah. So I think yours is burned.
I
Squadge's
think we've all used our
is
temps
burned.
already.
You've used it. So if any of you got a temporary temp, you could give it to Squadge. But it would be burned otherwise. But I'm not. I think you used yours as well, haven't you, Tom?
Yeah, I used my temporary one.
Yeah.
Here it goes then.
All right. Go ahead. So sorry. Were you rolling with inspiration or not? 13. All right.
No inspiration.
All right. So what I'm going to say to you, Ben, is 13 is the value. Roll a d20. If you get below 13, so you've created the value.
Roll a D20?
Yep, standard D20. Yep. Oh,
First one's a 19.
yeah. No. You're sitting there. There is something that is so bugging you now. Bugging you about your whole life. And your hand goes down, you touch the pommel of the Relt blade, and that makes you feel even more disquiet and uncomfortable. Because suddenly in your mind you think, I found this in a cave somewhere. When? And you can't remember the when. Okay, that's
I
it.
really see.
Mm.